So, good morning, everybody. My name is Graham Proud, and it's my absolute pleasure to welcome you to this Insurance Nexus webinar on raising insurance customer engagement. The purpose of this session is to highlight some of the key areas in which insurance carriers can improve their customer engagement, offering practical advice, strategic change, and case study examples. I'd like to start by thanking everybody who has joined us this morning. And of course, a big thank you to our prestigious speakers too. To reiterate, we have with us three experts this morning. Monica Schultz, Global Head of Customer and Digital, Zurich. Marie McKelvey, Head of Content and Creative at AXA. And Manjeet Rana, CEO of Ingenin. Welcome, everybody. Some background on the speakers. Monica, as mentioned, is the Global Head of Customer and Digital at Zurich Insurance Group, and also advisor to AFIA, a pioneer AIR computing company. Monica has a broad range of experience in the FMCG and insurance industries, having successfully served in senior executive positions for more than 25 years in various countries. She is currently heading the Global Customer and Digital Office and a member of the top leaders at Zurich Insurance Group. Monica's strength is inventing new, more powerful and profitable ways to build strong businesses and brands, especially in the context of massive industry transformation and digital disruption. She's also an early adopter of digital platforms and projects. In 2015, she was part of the strategic project team for Zurich in Silicon Valley, where she spent several weeks visiting and discussing with companies such as Google, Palantir, IBM Watson, and many others. Monica is also an advisor to AFIA, a US-based company that is a pioneer of augmented interactive reality. Marie, who's joining us from AXA, joined the business in 2011 with a background in publishing, working as an assistant editor. Since joining AXA, Marie has been passionate about developing best-in-class content that serves the needs of AXA's customers. Having built AXA Business's insurance content and creative team from the ground up, Marie now heads up a team that operates across AXA Insurance Direct Market. Recently named Rising Star by Insurance Post, Marie believes anything is possible, even insurance, and she's no stranger to challenging the status quo and looking for opportunities to do things better. An acute understanding of the customer has been integral to that. And finally, Manjeet is the founder and CEO of Ingenin, a multi-award-winning innovation consultancy created to help insurers grow their businesses through the adoption of disruptive technologies and innovative business models. Manjeet has created several startups as well as working for large corporates such as CSC, Fujitsu Consulting, and AXA, where he was recruited to help create the AXA Innovation Hub. Manjeet's broad and deep understanding of the insurance industry, together with his ability to generate creative solutions, means he is well placed to identify innovative and new solutions for insurance companies looking to evolve their products, services, and operations to better service digital and mobile-enabled customers. So, how's this going to work this morning? I will invite each of our speakers to discuss the topic in turn, after which we will be taking some questions from the listeners. So do feel free to post these in, and don't worry, the questions are anonymous, so I will not be naming and shaming, so no need to be shy. So without further ado, Monica, raising customer engagement is by no means a small task and can cover many aspects. So could I ask you, where do you see the priorities? And perhaps could you share your thoughts to begin with on how the industry can act in order to improve customer engagement?
Good morning to everybody, and I'm looking forward to this webinar and also the Q&A session later. So I would start with one sentence saying business as usual is no longer an option. When I started working for the insurance industry 10 years ago, a lot of people still challenged me and said, why do you want to focus on customers? We have agents and brokers. They take care of our clients, and you don't have to do this. Just focus on making the agents and brokers happy, and then your job is done. Of course, I already had a different opinion then because I'm coming from a completely different industry and now know how the power of focusing on the customer can increase business value. So I started building up customer databases or customer database with all our customer information, things like customer lifetime value modeling, and also customer segmentation. And I have to say, if I now look at the industry, it's pretty clear because of this digital disruption and a lot of competition, of course, as well, that the mindset is slowly shifting. But I still have colleagues who believe that a product focus is much more inclined to help us to grow the business than focusing on customers. So it is still a huge cultural shift, so to say how do we best get from product to customer focus, and then also getting everybody on board to say customer focus will increase value. And what I'm doing right now is that I talk to a lot of startups and digital companies that can help me to make the point. And I had a good discussion yesterday again with a company that told me that they have around 12 engagement points per year. And if you look at our data, it is less than one per year. So, I mean, one of the things we have is that we're really lagging behind when it comes to communicating and getting in touch with our customers. And this is the reason why it's no wonder that the people don't have any relationship to us. And in total, the trust level in the industry is relatively low. I mean, there's some other data points, of course, as well that make the trust level in insurance companies relatively low. But one of the key reasons is also that we hardly have any contact to our customers. So I think one of the focus points which we need to make clear is that we need to look at customer analytics. We have to get to single customer view. It's not enough anymore to look at policy retention. We have to look at customer retention. We have to understand the target market. We have to identify key target segments. And we have to focus on the fact that we have to retain our key clients and profitable clients. And that also means that we have to upsell and cross-sell effectively and efficiently, because it is pretty clear that customers that have more than one product with you are more loyal, more profitable, and will also stay longer. Apart from the fact, I mean, attracting a new customer costs 5 times as much as keeping an existing one. And if you look at the key facts, especially with younger customers, I mean, a big proportion, around 40% is my data set here, of customers are considering switching insurance carriers, and 22% will switch. So that means loyalty is relatively low, and that's something we have to focus upon. If you look at the key hurdles for customer loyalty in the insurance world, one of the reasons is, of course, that we don't get in contact. We only sell products. We have to focus more on services. But one of the things I also found is that the focus on brand and emotional bonding to customers, and that comes back to the bullet point of content and positive communication, is not a focus point in insurance carriers either. Most of the time when I talk to colleagues here, it is, oh yeah, brand and marketing is about focusing on logo and producing leaflets for the agents or for the brokers. But it's not in the DNA as it is with, for instance, Unilever or P&G, that the brand is something which is essential in order to get in touch with customers and have loyal customers as well. And I think that's something which is very important. Apart from that, we have a tendency to communicate with people by scaring them. So we often tell people, oh, you have to buy our products because your house might burn down or your car is breaking down. And the most negative example I still have from a Super Bowl ad, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, where insurance company had a very, very nice video showing a boy riding a bike, playing with a dog and doing all kinds of stuff. And then in the end, they say, oh, but unfortunately the boy died, and this is why you need an insurance product. And that's something which is quite common in our industry as well, that we tell people, oh, you need our product because a lot of negative stuff can happen. I think we have to turn that around. If we want to engage people, we have to engage them with positive content rather than scaring them, and also service applications, because that's something which gets you into a more positive space and people want to engage with you. Because if you scare them, the chances are relatively high that they don't want to engage with you. They understand, yeah, and you will touch their feelings. But the question is, are they really willing to engage with your brand, and do they want to have anything to do with you? This is one of the reasons why we relaunched the Zurich brand 3 years ago, or 4 years ago already. Because what we said then is that we say we have to get into a positive connotation, and we created a brand space which we called, if you really love something, you have to protect it in the best possible way. And all my market research shows that this is something which is really resonating with customers, and not only B2C, but also B2B. So this connotation of positive feelings, saying if you love something, you have to protect it, is something which works really well. And what we also did then is that we say we have to engage with good content. So we set up partnerships with Wall Street Journal, for example, and also LinkedIn and some others, in order to say how do we best get into content production and engaging with customers. Because of course today it's not only about one-sided communication, but engaging customers, talking to them, getting reactions, and having a good communication circle. I think that we also have to raise the game in customer acquisition and retention, meaning raising the game in data analytics and using data. So if we look at marketing campaigns, if you have all that content, it's very important that you look at the data and be clear what you want to achieve. It sounds a bit provocative, but in the beginning, when I came to the center and looked at all the country data, sometimes we just had campaigns and it was not clear who we wanted to target, what we wanted to achieve, and how do we define success if we have a campaign out there. So I think today it's very important that you say marketing is not only about being creative, but it is about data and data analytics. So you have to be clear, what is the target group, what do you want to achieve, go into details when it comes to digital campaigns as well, and be clear about the main metrics, and then measure if the campaign was good or not, and then continuously improve if you see that something is not working the way you defined it should be working. I think, in our case, and I assume with AXA, for example, as well, it's also important to say, how do I best attract the segment that is less price sensitive? Because we want to create value and also value-added services. And a lot of people today also use aggregators and price comparison machines, which is good. But in the end, it's also important to say, how do I get to customers where I can clearly add value as well? And make sure that if you create campaigns, you're also clear about who you want to attract, respectively retain. So data analytics is very important. And then, of course, it's important to say, if I get in touch with those customers, which I ideally want to have, how do I best attract them? How do I get from less than one touch point per year to more touch points per year? What are the most important touch points for the customers alongside the journey? Traditionally, insurers are more focused on selling and then claims in the end, but the customer journey is more than just selling and claims. So make sure that you understand the customer journey, be clear about how you want to interact with customers alongside the customer journey. And what we as Zurich Insurance also did is that we said we would create a customer journey framework together with the countries. That doesn't mean that we have the journeys the same for all the countries, but at least we now mandate that all the countries have to look at the journeys and not only just claims and sales. And then be sure how we best interact with the customer at each customer journey touch point. And if there are any pain points, how do we best address them? And right now, I have to say that we have two different angles we're looking at. we are looking at fixing the basics. And the second point is then to say, how do we best innovate and use technology in order to attract customers and also differentiate to competition. And fixing the basics means analyzing alongside the customer journey in detail where the pain points are. In a just very trivial example, but when we looked at one of the customer journeys, we found out that we sent 10 letters at the same time to people, I think, before Christmas. And they got really annoyed because they had a stack of paper still, which we sent to them. So the question is, why can't we send it in one go? Why does it have to be 10 different letters? Does it still have to be letters, or can we do something more digitally? I mean, really, the nitty-gritty is also important in order to say, how do we best deal with our customers, and how are we more efficient than just saying we have different departments and they all send out letters because it has to be sent out. And there's some other examples as well, which I thought were enlightening, because I mean, if you don't work with the touch points on a daily basis, or the department on a daily basis, you sometimes don't see, I mean, the key daily hurdles, and the customer journey work really helped us as well to say, how do we best get to this so-called nitty-gritty and improve it, because we know that customers can be pretty annoyed about it. What we also now did in order to make sure that we really tackle everything alongside the journey is that we use our NPS system, not only at specific touch points, but we encourage all the countries to say, you really have to measure all the interactions and also be clear about what kind of metrics are important for you. And that's something which we will launch as a global framework as well. And I'm right now having workshops with all the countries in order to say, how do we best get there? Because also here, data and making sure that the executives of the countries, but also here at the center, know where our pain points are and how can we best prioritize investments. And for that, you need some kind of data framework which you use. We're going to start with our NPS system, but we're also plugging other metrics against it, using artificial intelligence, but also, of course, dashboards so that everybody can see where we are, and then helping people to leverage whatever we have to do for the customer engagement. And that brings me to the technology point. Of course, I mean, I'm a big fan of technology, not just because of technology, but because it can help us to master the pain points which we have alongside the journey. And it can also help in the end to define points of differentiation. Because in the end, one of the tasks is that we say, how is Zurich better and different than competitors? So the question is, how do you best use technology in order to do that? And one of the projects I was involved in from the Silicon Valley project we had starting in 2015 is artificial intelligence. And we had several pilots in several countries. One example is the UK injury claims, where we in former times had to look at medical reports which took a human 58 minutes. We are now down to 5 seconds, and I think that's a huge difference, not only because we are more efficient, but it also takes less time in order to give customers an answer. And that's a good example for me also to say, how can technology help us in order to achieve certain things which are better for the customer, but also for us in the company? To be very honest, in the beginning, we were just fascinated by IBM Watson and their technology, and then we tried to find a pilot and do something. During the project, we then mastered to say, what is it what we really want to achieve? Is it automation? Is it artificial intelligence? What are we going to do? What is the objective of the project? So we refined the project alongside the project life quite a lot, and I think that's important as well. And I talked to a lot of people about that because, of course, now we have a tendency to get in love or fall in love with technology. But the question is always, what do I want to achieve? What is the first step? What is the vision? And that was a project where we started with IBM Watson, but in the end, we boiled it down to automation. And it might be that we come back to artificial intelligence again. But in the beginning, I think it was easier for the people to deal with this automation concept. And getting down from 58 minutes to 5 seconds is already a huge step. Because if you go into artificial intelligence projects, it's not trivial, and you have to be really clear what you put in there, what the outcome should be. So be clear what you want to achieve, be clear about the outcome. That is very essential as well. And then I think one of the concepts which is also important for me, and I'm curious to hear other voices. How do I best deal with partnerships and working together with others? Because traditionally, insurance companies had the tendency to do everything on their own. And I think that we are now more in the space, also other companies, to say, how do we best use partners in order to grow and also go into technology and digital space? Because if we always want to build everything on our own, A, we don't have the expertise that quickly, and B, it will take too long times. So in the end, it's sometimes better to say, how do we best work with partners that are good in this arena? And I still like the example that we acquired Brightbox December of last year in order to get into the more digital space in motor insurance. We also acquired Covermore last year, a travel insurance company that has high quality digital capabilities, where we said, okay, apart from the fact that we enter a new product arena, but we can also tap into their digital expertise of acquiring and retaining customers. So let us talk to them. And I'm personally also involved in a partnership we now set up with a small business carrier located in the States that wants to enter the European market. And we're going to launch a proposition together with them in February, starting in Spain. And one of the reasons we also partnered with them is, I said, let us look at their digital marketing capabilities. I think we can learn a lot from them. And they have an online front end, which is very customer friendly, including analytics in the beginning in order to understand what the customer needs, but then also online quote and buy. And that's something we could have built ourselves, but it would have taken me 2 more years because I started discussing about it last summer. We are now launching in February. And I think that's already something where we have a huge progress vis-a-vis the past, because projects cannot take 2, 3, 4, 5 years anymore. You have to push it down to less than 1 year and get into action quickly, because otherwise you will not win in the market.
Monica,
Graham,
would you allow me to interject?
Yes.
So many interesting points there, and we've got lots of questions coming in. So I think if we move on to our next speaker, and then we have some time at the end to give you some of those direct questions, because we've got lots of interest. There was lots of points there. So let's get to those questions at the end, and I would invite Marie. Would you like to bring your contribution?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Monica. I'll definitely kind of pick up, I think, as well on some of the things that Monica's mentioned there. I think the first thing I kind of wanted to touch on, and I'm going to come at this from much more of a sort of customer insight and content point of view. That's where my kind of area of expertise is. But I think the first thing to say in regard to customer engagement is that ultimately we are all responsible for positively engaging our customers, and irrespective of our position within the organisation. And I think for me that starts with the customer and truly understanding who our customer is. And that means immersing yourself in as much data, research and insight as you can get. As I talk through this, I'll hopefully touch on some practical tips from my own experience, as well as some examples of things that we've done here. But one of the kind of fundamentals, as I've said, is that customer insight. And when we built, in particular, our direct proposition for the SME market about 6 or 7 years ago, one of the first roles that we recruited into that team was an insight and market research expert. And even today, their early involvement, that team's early involvement in everything that we do, from operational projects to content ideation, is so critical. And as a team, it's made us become truly customer first. And across AXA in the UK, culturally, we're becoming customer first too. So practically, kind of high level, how do we use that customer insight, market research, analytics to drive customer engagement ultimately? And I think the first thing to say is that our decision making is driven by customer insight, and I think that's really critical to ensuring customer engagement at the end of that journey. So a couple of things that we do: we monitor customer sentiment, and as I'm sure many of you will do, everything from brand awareness, consideration, saliency, perception, and that drives our strategic marketing decisions. Recently in one metric we saw a dip in perception in the market, and we'll address that with a content campaign or a marketing campaign to ensure those levels of engagement continue. And I think another thing to touch on in this, and I'll come on to it a little bit later, is that there's a lot of focus out there on metrics and data and hard numbers. And measuring engagement, because engagement is no longer a woolly metric. It's something that we do a lot of in terms of on-site engagement or media engagement. But actually, and Monica touched on this in terms of that kind of emotional bonding with our customer, taking our content and the stuff that we do to our customers, and asking them how they feel about it and how it makes their perception of AXA change, whether it makes them feel good things, whether it's a surprising thing, is really important, I think, because we need to, as an industry, we need to move the conversation away from price. And we've created this battleground of price, but ultimately it's not where the battleground is going to be won. Following on from using insight to drive decision making, we are using customer research and insight to drive content directly. As I touched on, our content ideation process starts with the customer, with our insight teams, and really understanding those customers' pain points and passion points. Collaborating with the insight team really ensures that the content that we develop is touching either the pain points or the passion points. And from that point of view, you're then off to a good start in ensuring that positive engagement. But we want to take that one step further. There's a lot of organisations out there using customer research and market insight to that effect. But again, kind of picking up on something that Monica said around us, we talk a lot about products and not enough about services, but equally that lack of sort of emotional connectivity with our audience and our customers. So something that we've been doing a lot of lately is sort of building on the old adage, I suppose, of people buying from people. And we are increasingly using customers as brand advocates, writers of our content, facilitating a space where, for instance, our micro SME customers can create content that interests our other micro SME customers. And celebrating them, not in a kind of traditional testimonial style, but celebrating our customers, their stories, and engaging our customers through those other stories, because, as I've said, people buy from people, and that human angle is something that we're seeing a lot of success with. Ultimately, as insurers, we can't be the authoritative voice in everything. So that's a real learning for us, I think, over the past sort of 18 months. I won't talk too much more about customer insight and using research, other than to say, it's for us, it's at the foundation of everything that we do in terms of driving customer engagement. My approach personally is trying to sort of attend as many customer focus groups as I can, irrespective of the topic, getting under the skin of what's happening in our operations business and underwriting, what's annoying our customers, and how can we positively engage them with the right type of content to mitigate that. And as Monica touched on as well, positively engaging our customers. As an industry, we are so guilty of engaging them with negative messages and fear tactics, and ultimately delivering content that will help us positively engage that audience. So I want to go on and talk a little bit more about content and about how we are engaging customers with relevant and interesting content, and more importantly, what we're finding is working for us. So I think the first thing to say is around, again, something else Monica touched on, which is something that we have been guilty of in the past and is a key focus for us, is we speak to our we do not speak to our customers enough. Our customers have a minimum of 1 point of contact with us in the year when they're buying their product. If they're unfortunate enough to have to make a claim, that's potentially the next point. But in order to build loyalty, we need to ensure that we're having that ongoing conversation with our customers. Occasionally, we can also be guilty of having that conversation with our target audience, with those who are not our customers, and neglecting those that we do have. So for me, that's where content really plays a key role, is facilitating and those conversations with our customers. And one of our key distribution channels for that is email. And yeah, it's absolutely our most successful, and it is still one of the most successful channels for distribution of content among our customers. I would say one of the hurdles of email is absolutely technology. Having the right technology in place, single customer view, etc., is really critical for maintaining a really fantastic email communication strategy. I want to touch on just some of the successes that we've seen, and at a high level, just some of the reasons for that hopefully can provide some practical tips to the audience. One of the things that we've done in the past 12 to 18 months is in-house a lot of our content production, which has been a mammoth task and continues to be a mammoth ambition of ours. But we are already seeing in the past 12 months much increased customer engagement with that content and output that is of a much higher quality as well. And I believe part of the reason for that is that we know our customers better than anyone else knows our customers, and keeping that content really close to the business and continuing that kind of insight-driven content has really seen a lot of success in that area, and that's something that we're continuing to do. I've spoken a little bit about insight-driven content. That's not just market research, that's our claims insight, that's search insight. And I think one of the things we've learned through using insight, and particularly the insight we gather from the operational and claims areas, is not to be afraid of tackling negative issues. Building trust is another key objective of content for us, and being transparent. So a couple of examples of that. There are things that as an insurer we won't cover for whatever reason, and we probably shy away from talking about that in a proactive and positive way. Instead, we wait for the customer to call us up and try and make a claim. One of the things that we're trying to do is more proactively talk to our customers about the things that we do cover, the things that we don't cover, but also how to mitigate that risk and make sure that when that time comes that they are much more aware. So using content to sort of make those often difficult conversations much easier. Another thing is, and Monica touched on upselling and cross-selling and all that sort of stuff. I think it's so easy to upsell and cross-sell by offering discounts, etc. And yes, that maybe builds short-term loyalty. It keeps the customer with us because they're getting something a little bit cheaper. But ultimately, we're kind of trying to move a little bit away from that and come at it from a much more transparent point of view. So a kind of recent example of that would be that we kind of discovered lately that our accidental damage cover on our home insurance direct product, we had quite low uptake, but we were actually seeing a really high volume of claims for that, and ultimately we weren't able to remediate those claims as a result. Instead of sort of going out and encouraging people to take that cover up with a discount or with some sort of price-led offer, we created some rich video content that kind of demonstrated why that product exists, what instances it covers against, and almost with a kind of take it or leave it message to our customers, and we saw some phenomenal results with that. So I think, tackling that negative perception customers have of us is sort of money grabbing, for want of a better phrase, and tackling negative issues for the customer was really positive, engaging content. I also touched on, human content works. Authenticity is key. That's something that we're seeing a lot of success in. So content that we have our customers create, or case studies that we feature on our customers, or stories that we tell about our customers, is some of the most engaging content that we share with our customers, and really facilitating a kind of community feel. We can't be an authority in everything, and Monica touched on partnerships as well, and I think that's something we need to get better at, is leveraging partnerships to engage customers too. Some other things that we found certainly in the past kind of 12 to 18 months that works, practical, useful content, particularly when it is insight driven with our customers, and when it's well timed. Content planning is really important in that regard, and something that we'll do to ensure we maintain the high levels of engagement that we do is we have kind of monthly planning calls where anyone in the business, anyone in the team can join and pitch in ideas based on the insight that they're seeing across the business. So making content a very collaborative process. Finally, on kind of content specifically, I think it's worth saying, we're in the performance area of content and content marketing. As I said earlier, engagement is no longer a kind of woolly term. We need to measure that engagement and use that to drive future content and ensure higher engagement with our customers. And if there's anything I've learned with content in my time working in this area, it's that it can be really good to fail. It can be really good to reflect on kind of 6 months of activity, and you take most learnings away sometimes from the stuff that really, really didn't land with our customers. So yeah, and I think another thing to say on that is, this webinar today, we're talking about raising insurance customer engagement, and raising that customer engagement is critical, but it's also important to engage our target future customers too. I think if we're going to build trust and transparency in this industry, as I said earlier, it won't be won in the price battleground in the long term. We need to offer much more depth and value to our customers. As Monica said, not just products, but services too. And there's a few kind of projects that we're working on this year that, it's not about insurance, it's about what we can do for our customers to empower them and improve their lives. And I think the final thing to say just on the content, on the kind of performance area of content marketing, if you like, is about creating a real mix of content. I think it's easy to focus on content that's specifically aligned to products, but our customers are human. So there's kind of 3 types of content that we really focus on. There's that mass appeal content that touches the kind of upper funnel, and that acquires that initial interest in us as a brand and drives people to our site and raises brand awareness. And then there's that interest content, which is kind of mid-funnel, is much more aligned to the product, and ultimately leads to the kind of the action content. So I think it's about thinking a little bit smartly about the content mix and how we want to engage customers and the audience too. And I just I want to wrap up a little bit about talking about loyalty. I've touched on it at various points, but we talk a lot about retention in this industry and our retention figures. And for me, I think loyalty and retention are different things. Loyalty is about emotion and real true engagement. And I think, we know that when it comes to customer loyalty, as I've heard it once in a focus group, I've heard it a million times with customers. Customers don't believe that we reward loyalty. And a lot of that perception is driven through price. But ultimately, as I said before, I don't think that loyalty battleground will be won solely on price. We need to offer something more to our customers and reward those who've stayed. And it goes back to Monica's point about contact and frequent contact. And, as an industry, we're not doing it enough. We're not facilitating an ongoing customer conversation throughout that term of their policy. And I think the challenge excites me from a content perspective and the things that we can do to engage customers. We've created this price sensitive market, but we need to offer much, much more. We need to be more than an insurance company. And customer engagement for me can be secured through facilitating better conversations and being of value to our customers. So yeah, that's kind of just how I wanted to wrap this up.
Brilliant.
But yeah, I look forward to any questions.
Thanks, Marie. Yes, again, we've had a flood of questions around the points you've raised. So we'll come to those after we hear from Manjeet. Manjeet, can we hear your perspective on things?
Yeah, hi. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Cool. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Monica, Marie, thank you for some really interesting views. I'm conscious of the time, so I'm gonna keep my bit relatively short, just to give the audience an opportunity to ask some of those questions that are coming through, because I think it's more valuable to be able to address some of the questions rather than just providing our view. So from my perspective, I don't think buying insurance is the most exciting experiences that a consumer has, and most people fundamentally, when we do our focus groups, most people fundamentally don't trust the insurance industry. I think that has a big impact on why we have exaggerated claims and people trying to defraud insurance industry. So I think a big challenge for us is how we improve our relationship with our policyholders and the broader market in general. I think one of our biggest challenges is how insurers stay relevant and connect to the consumer on a regular basis. And as both Marie and Monica mentioned, when I'm buying insurance as a consumer and even as a business, the only interaction I have with my insurer is when I purchase a policy up front. And that's not the most exciting of experiences in itself, but having bought my policy, I then don't hear anything from my insurer unless I have a claim. And as I very rarely have had a claim, I get to the end of the year and there's kind of like no value to me to stay with that one insurer because I've received nothing from them. And I think virtually every other product that consumers utilize, they have regular interaction with that product or service provider. And I think that's a big challenge because that's what the consumers are used to and that's kind of what they expect. Even if you look at the utility sector, there was, even up to very recently, people would get a quarterly utility bill and they'd be freaking out as to why that bill is so high. But now with smart meters, people are interacting with their utility provider on a regular basis, several times a day, because they're able to see what impact them utilizing that utility is having. The minute they switch the kettle on, they can see that it has a direct impact. And it's taken away the shock factor of when they receive their bills. Now, I don't know how we do that in insurance. But we definitely need to do something that gives us more regular interactions from a positive perspective with the consumer. I think 90% of policyholders probably don't make a claim and generally don't get any value from it. So most of our insurance clients are very focused on that 10-15% of customers that make the claim and how to make that experience as pleasant and as easy as possible for that claimant. The problem is we seem to ignore the other 85-90% of customers that aren't making a claim, and yet that's where all of our margin's coming from. So I think we really need to readdress that. And as Monica mentioned, acquiring new customers is a really expensive business. If you've got 1 million policyholders and you've only got a 6% retention rate, you're probably spending well over 20 million a year just to stand still, just to keep that same size of book of business. Now, I'm sure we could utilize that kind of money to improve the interactions that we have with our customers. I think some of the interesting developments over recent years, things like motor telematics has provided some really interesting opportunities for insurers to build positive, more regular interactions, and as a result, build better relationships. The problem is we're still heavily focused on that young driver market, and we're not utilizing that kind of relationship opportunity with the mass market. I've noticed a lot of insurers are now applying very similar motor telematics thinking to the home insurance market by packaging sensors in return for discounts on premiums. The issue that I think that we have, again, is most consumers fundamentally don't trust us. So, how comfortable am I going to be as a consumer putting sensors in my house if I think on the one occasion that I leave a window unlocked, the insurer is going to use that data against me to not pay my claim? I think what's becoming more interesting is if you look at car manufacturers and the telematics technology that's in most new cars at the moment. I don't think most people buying those cars have an issue with the fact that they're being tracked and that technology is being utilized. But it suddenly opens the door for an adjacent industry provider like a car manufacturer or a home security company bundling insurance as if it's a secondary product that's bundled into a service that you actually care more about, such as your car or your home or security. And I think that there are potentially some real threats coming our way if we don't find a way of resolving the issue of how relevant how relevant most consumers feel insurance products are to them. And I think it was Monica also that mentioned, we seem to sell insurance either on that, well, you don't have a choice, you have to buy this product, such as motor, and the challenge there is people will naturally want to pay the lowest price possible, especially if they haven't had a claim. And if people are only claiming every 10 years, they very quickly forget how important it is for the service that they receive. And I think we're seeing similar approaches in other areas as well, but such as I think More Than launched Waggle Pets a couple of years ago, so it's a pet telematics product. And I think the challenge is that the thinking that we're applying is still the same. The products are designed very much from an insurer perspective rather than the value that a consumer would want or is getting. And I think that's a real issue if we're going to address this loyalty and relevance challenge that we have as a product provider for our customers. I think most consumers and most insurers accept that the regular interactions with policyholders to build better engagement and reduce the reliance on price differentiators is not just about the interactions, but about adding value. The number of customers we see in focus groups, when you ask them who they're insured with, and they'll say, "Oh, I'm insured with Confused." Well, clearly they're not, but that's the perception. The aggregators seem to have a much better relationship with the consumer than their actual insurance provider has, and probably that's because I'm receiving multiple communications about various different products, not just the one policy that I have with my insurance provider. I think the second part of my perspective is focused more on how insurers manage those interactions. Most of the audience is probably aware that there's a newish type of software called Customer Journey Analytics, which tracks and measures multiple interactions between the insurer and its policyholders. There's several of these companies. That the established ones are typically companies like ClickFox, Thunderhead, Blue Shift, and there are a number of insurtech startups launching solutions in this space as well. A couple off the top of my head, companies like Sentifirm, Infolytics, who are based out of San Francisco, and a number of our clients are also looking at using, as Monica mentioned, IBM Watson and other AI solutions to predict which of their customers are most likely not to renew, and then they take positive action to try and improve the chances of retaining that customer. I think Marie touched on the bit about the customer loyalty piece and making our customers feel like that they are valuable to us. I've been with the same insurer for my car insurance for the best part of 5 years. And every year when they send a renewal notice through, it's always higher than I can get buy the same product from them on a new business basis. So every year I cancel my policy, I go back to price comparison site, and I buy that product again. Now, that must be costing that insurer a fortune, but we go through the same thing every year. I don't fundamentally want to move away from that insurer, but I don't understand as a consumer why I'm paying more when I'm a loyal customer than somebody would pay for as a new business customer. Now, obviously, there are lots of reasons from an insurance perspective as to why that's the case, but as a consumer, that doesn't make it very compelling for me to want to stay with that insurer. So we really need to address those kind of issues as an industry as well. And I think policyholders, the other interesting impact of social media is that policyholders are interacting with that social media whenever we do anything that doesn't make that customer very happy. And they're talking about us, talking about the insurers on social media, online review sites, and a number of the insurers I talk to say, "Oh, don't worry, we're kind of reviewing this quarterly." Well, if you don't address a problem within a few minutes of it popping up on social media somewhere, it's too late. You really have to be able to deal with those things almost on a real-time basis. And I think, therefore, tracking every interaction with your customers, on that very, very frequent basis is really important. I think I'm going to cut it there. I'm happy to address any specific questions because I think we've only got about 9 minutes left to give the audience a chance to ask any questions.
Thanks, Manjeet. Yes, we certainly have lots of questions here. So I think I'm going to try and pull out 4 or 5 out of them, and we'll see if we can get through those. So, Monica, are you still with us?
Yes.
Yes, great. Well, the first question was actually addressed to Monica and Marie, and it says, can Monica and Marie outline some details within the customer journey between the point of selling and the point of claims? How are your insurance companies keeping your clients engaged? What are the most successful tactics to keep your customers interested between the point of sale and the point of claim? Monica, perhaps you could tackle this one first.
Yes. I mean, I'm of the sincere belief that you have to have things like customer portals today as well and give customers a reason to come back to you as often as possible. And that means that you have to engage them around not only insurance topics, but services that add value to them in their daily life.
Yeah. And
if you look at our current reality, it is the case that we don't have customer portals in all countries, and even the bigger ones. And the discussions I have right now is, we don't have IT capacity for that. Other things are more important. So we are still in this wave of customer is still not in the center of everything we do. And we will change that significantly in 2018 because we changed the incentive system as well. And that will give me the leeway to say, how do we best get to customer services and customer and things like customer portals so that we get people to interact with us on a constant basis. And Marie, I assume that you also do a lot around, content creation. So the word.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think some of the kind of tactics that have worked quite well for us recently. Traditionally, our welcome emails when you buy a policy with us have been, how would I say, quite formal, quite stuffy. We've kind of recently redone those to be much more engaging. So Monica's talking about customer portals, actually creating video content that shows customers what they can do there, the flexibility it gives them with their policies, and just creating emails that are much more content driven when customers buy from us, and not just a sort of, right, thanks for buying, speak to you soon. So that's one thing we've done. Another thing that we're very conscious of is that people renew year on, year out, particularly in the micro SME space, and they don't necessarily update their policy details, so that their turnover remains the same, etc., etc. So there's a real apathy there as well in terms of the people using the customer portal. So encouraging customers to carry out health checks on their policy is something that we're doing in between sort of purchase and the claim stage. And emails in general, so monthly newsletters is something that we introduced about 2 years ago, working with great success. But the one key thing, I think that those are all tactics that we can all be doing and be doing better. The one key thing that we're kind of working on right now is added value services when you buy from us, on top of your insurance. So great, you've purchased something with us, now go and sign up to this free thing that you get with us. And so trying to keep them engaged from the point of purchase outside of their insurance policy per se. So I probably can't talk in too much detail about that, which makes this really vague and loose, but giving them value added stuff over and above their insurance policy, and allowing them to engage with us on that front.
Great. Just conscious of time, Marie, while I've got you, the next question is actually directed for you, and is asking what your relationship is with the digital teams and digital product. As someone who's head of content, what sort of relationship do you have with the digital team and the sort of ongoing developments within that?
Yeah, it's a really, really, really good question. When we grew the team for I'll use the micro SME proposition just as an example because it's a good one. When we started that team 6 years ago, it was a marketing and digital e-commerce team. So from the get-go, it was a very collaborative approach to digital customer journeys, to product. So that's always been at the kind of heart of our ethos. I sit next to our one of our digital project managers. So from that point of view, really close. In terms of product teams and digital more widely, we're I think I don't want to use the word collaboration too heavily because it does sound a little bit fluffy, but it is incredibly critical. We're quite fortunate where we're based that we have a lot of our key stakeholders in terms of the digital teams sort of, banks of desks away, so to speak. Now, that's not always possible, but one of the key parts of my role as someone working in content, as I sort of touched on, is to be almost plugged into so many different teams and have an ear to the ground. So whether that's the digital team, whether that's the insight team, whether that's the head of underwriting, my tip would be just to sort of, keep your hand in everything, really. But yeah, I mean, in terms of we're building a new customer journey, people from my team are very much involved in that from the kind of foundations point of view. And it's something, the final thing to say on that is that it's often that the business, copywriters, content developers, etc., they're often not the first people that underwriters or anyone think to involve. So it's sometimes a little bit of a cultural battle to say, look, we can add value here, etc. So yeah, it's a difficult one, but it's worth pushing through on that.
Great. Next question is directed to the whole panel. So perhaps Manjeet, you could kick us off here. But this one's focused on when we're looking at content, what success have we had or seen in relation to leveraging customer smartphone apps? So I guess a general question around the potential within customer smartphone apps and mobile. How do you see that sort of playing out, Manjeet, and developing?
Sure. I think so. A few years ago, we saw a whole kind of raft of insurance claims apps that were being launched into the market, and virtually every one of them failed. And they failed because, again, consumers don't wake up in the morning thinking they're going to have an accident that day. I better download an accident app. And even when they do download, an app like that, the problem is they don't have, 90% of the time they don't have an accident, and therefore they kind of think, well, what's the relevance of the app on my phone? So I think we really have to think about, it's fine creating an app, but it's really got to add value to the consumer rather than adding value to the insurer by streamlining their process or cutting their costs. I'll be honest, I don't think I've ever seen a really effective app from an insurance company that I really wanted to download. The closest is probably the MyAviva app. But again, even that, it's not something that I log on to, maybe like once a year if I kind of want my policy details, for instance. But other than that, there's kind of no value to me in linking to it. The kind of app that would interest me, though, is if I look at it from a perspective of, virtually every motor insurer has a really effective supply chain out there. So they have deals with a whole bunch of different car dealerships and tire providers, etc. Why are they not utilizing that supply chain to offer me a better service? Because at the end of the day, I'm not really that worried about my insurance, but buying tires for my car costs about £400 a tire. But if my insurance company can predict when I need one, can't they make me an offer and say, if you go to this particular garage, you get a 5% discount? That would increase my loyalty to that insurance company, but that could apply to servicing, whatever. So that kind of app, I think, would be far more effective. Yeah.
Interesting point, and I think that sort of value add is one to explore. Guys, we've only got 1 minute left, so unfortunately we can't go through any more of the questions. Excuse me. But I'd just like to thank everybody who's listened in, and of course a big thank you to our expert speakers, Monica, Marie and Manjeet. Thank you very much. We do hope we can work again with you in the future. What I would say is if you'd like to explore more themes around raising customer engagement, we do have our main conference in June, Insurance Customer Engagement Europe. That's June 19th and 20th. We are gathering 150 plus C-level executives from European insurers, those really tasked with raising customer engagement. So those within customer-centric roles, chief marketing, chief customer officers, those in operations and digital. And just to discuss what are the practical engagement strategies, how can the customer journey be improved, looking at points of the single customer view and data, and the huge technological choice which exists on the market, how is that approached, and the partnerships that go with that. So if you are interested in that, we are currently running huge discounts on the passes at the moment, and you can save up to £350 by visiting the website, which is events.insurancennexus.com/ICEE, or if you Google Raising Insurance Customer Engagement in Insurance Nexus, you can find lots more details. So hope to hear from you soon, and thank you again. Thanks to the panelists. And thank you, and we'll speak to you soon and see you all again.
It was a pleasure. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Take care.
Take
Bye,
care.
everyone.